Matthew chapter 24 verse 30 and 31 says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." So why is the sign of the Son of Man important at all? First of all, what is the sign of the Son of Man according to the Scriptures? From the Scriptures, the sign of the Son of Man can only be one of these three signs. Number 1. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Luke chapter 2 verse 12. Number 2. John chapter 1 verse 29 says, "The next day John seeth Jesus coming unto him, and said, Behold the Lamb of Elohim, which taketh away the sin of the world." Also, referenced in Genesis chapter 22 verse 8 through Revelation chapters 5, 6, 8, 12, and 13. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 19, "But with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish, and without spot." John chapter 1 verse 36 says, "And looking upon Jesus as he walked, he saith, Behold the Lamb of Elohim." Number 3. Mark chapter 14 verse 62. "And Jesus said, I am. And ye shall see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven." Looking at this verse of Mark chapter 14 verse 62, this scene of Christ sitting on the right hand of Elohim could definitely be the sign of the Son of Man. But what it can never be is a cross or crucifix as many believe, and which also happens to be a cursed sign. Galatians chapter 3 verse 13. And just as if all the celestial events that precede the appearance of Christ are not enough signs, why would he still stress the sign of the Son of Man? Number 1 can be easily ruled out as the sign of the Son of Man on the day of the Yahuwah, because the angel specifically gave this sign of Luke chapter 2 verse 12 to the shepherds, in order to find and recognize Christ's birth and location. Number 2 cannot be the sign because not everybody in the world understands the scripture hermeneutic value of Christ as a Lamb of Elohim. And the scripture verse says, "All the tribes of the earth mourn," when they see Christ coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Matthew chapter 24 verse 30. Also, we know that the sign of the Son of Man cannot be a lightning, because Christ used lightning as a parallel of how visible his return will be, in contrast to the silent rapture life from the enemy. Matthew chapter 24 verse 27. Therefore we are left with only number 3 on the table. And if we are going to be consistent as Berean Christians, we already know that Scripture interprets Scripture. And Revelation chapter 14 gives us a major insight into heaven, on the day of the Yahuwah, the day Christ comes for his bride, church. Revelation chapter 14 verse 14 says, "And I looked, and behold a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown and in his hand a sharp sickle. So, John is saying, after all the heavenly ceremonies that herald Christ's appearance are over, he, John, looked, and behold a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. Daniel also testified to this in chapter 7 verse 13, saying, I saw in the night visions, and, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. This scene in Daniel 7 is from a future court sitting, arraigned in heaven, presided over by Father Yahuwah himself, concerning the Antichrist, and restoring of everything the first Adam lost, back to the last Adam, Christ. And notice that Christ came with the clouds of heaven in both Daniel 7 and Revelation chapter 14, meaning it is not a one-time scenario. This is a glory distinct to Christ alone. The manuscripts of the Greek New Testament were written in scriptio continua, with no spaces between the words. And it would appear that punctuation was added with the advent of printing. Therefore the sign of the Son of Man is his gradual descent, sitting on a cloud into our atmosphere for everybody to be able to see him and mourn. Matthew chapter 24 verse 30. So, once again, why did Christ need to mention this? And as if all the cosmic trumps that come before the sign of the Son of Man is not enough? Maybe, and maybe Satan has a counterfeit scenario lined up for his embodiment son, the Antichrist? Now, let us examine two counterfeit scenarios in which Satan can mimic Christ, thereby misleading a large number of people into believing a false Christ. Number 1. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 9 to 12. The coming of the lawless one, Antichrist. Islamic Jesus, Isa, will be accompanied by the working of Satan, with every kind of power, sign, and false wonder, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them, that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, Christ, that they might be saved. And for this cause, Elohim shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, Jesus, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Islamic's Hadith says, Isa, Islamic Jesus, will return to earth. He will descend close to the white minaret to the east of Damascus just before Fajr time. He will be wearing garments lightly colored with saffron, and his hands will be placed on the wings of two angels. Whenever he lowers his head, droplets fall, and whenever he raises his head, precious stones that look like pearls fall. The Mahdi and others will ask him to lead them in prayer, but he will refuse, saying, Your Imam should lead, as a grace from Allah. Isa will not have returned as a new prophet, but rather as a follower of the Prophet Muhammad, adhering to the Sharia he brought. Now let's examine the second counterfeit scenario, from an extra-biblical text called the Ascension of Isaiah. Hebrew 11:37 mentioned how the prophets and Christ's disciples died various horrible deaths for their beliefs. It mentioned that they were sawn asunder, meaning sawn into two. And this extra-biblical text of Ascension of Isaiah testified that prophet Isaiah was sawn alive into two. Ascension chapter 5 verses 1 and 2. The Ascension of Isaiah as a pseudepigraphical Judeo-Christian text. Scholarly estimates regarding the date of the Ascension of Isaiah range from 70 AD to 175 AD. Many scholars believe it to be a compilation of several texts completed by an unknown Christian scribe who claimed to be the prophet Isaiah, while an increasing number of scholars in recent years have argued that the work is a unity by a single author that may have utilized multiple sources. But I find the text very fascinating because of how on point it is when it comes to the eschatology of the Antichrist, and how it lines up with scriptures. Ascension of Isaiah chapter 4. Verses 1 through 18 reads, "And now Hezekiah and Joseph my son, these are the days of the completion of the world. After it is consummated, Beliar, another name for Satan, the great ruler, the king of this world, will descend, who hath ruled it since it came into being. Yea, he will descend from his firmament in the likeness of a man, a lawless king, the slayer of his mother, who himself, even this king, will persecute the plant which the 12 apostles of the Beloved have planted. Of the 12, one will be delivered into his hands. This ruler in the form of that king will come, and there will come with him all the powers of this world, and they will hearken unto him in all that he desires, counterfeit king to Christ, and counterfeit kingdom to Jerusalem. And at his word, the sun will rise at night, and he will make the moon to appear at the 6th hour. And all that he hath desired he will do in the world. He will do and speak like the Beloved, and he will say, I am Elohim, and before me there has been none. And all the people in the world will believe in him. And they will sacrifice to him, and they will serve him, saying, This is Elohim, and beside him there is no other. And the greater number of those who shall have been associated together in order to receive the Beloved, he will turn aside after him. And there will be the power of his miracles in every city and region. And he will set up his image before him in every city, the mark of the beast. The image in Revelation chapter 13. And he shall bear away 3 years and 7 months and 27 days. And many believers and saints, having seen him for whom they were hoping, who was crucified, Yahusha the Adonai Christ, after that I, Isaiah, had seen him who was crucified and ascended, and those also who were believers in him, of these few in those days will be left as his servants, while they flee from desert to desert, awaiting the coming of the Beloved. And after 1,332 days, Daniel chapter 12 verse 11, the Lord will come with his angels and with the armies of the holy ones from the 7th heaven with the glory of the 7th heaven, and he will drag Beliar into Gehenna and also his armies. And he will give rest to the godly whom he shall find in the body in this world, and the sun will be ashamed, and to all who because of their faith in him have execrated Beliar and his kings. But the saints will come with the Lord with their garments which are now stored up on high in the 7th heaven. With the Lord they will come, whose spirits are clothed, they will descend and be present in the world, and he will strengthen those who have been found in the body, together with the saints, in the garments of the saints, and the Lord will minister to those who have kept watch in this world. And afterward, they will turn themselves upward in their garments, and their body will be left in the world. Then the voice of the Beloved will in wrath rebuke the things of heaven and the things of earth and the mountains and the hills and the cities and the desert and the forests and the angel of the sun and that of the moon, and all things wherein Beliar manifested himself and acted openly in this world. And there will be a resurrection and a judgment in their midst in those days, and the Beloved will cause fire to go forth from him, and it will consume all the godless, and they will be as though they had not been created. Christ is returning for his true church, his bride without blemish. Have you signed up? It is free. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, his Word made into flesh, for you and I to follow back to him. Make your right choice of accepting him as your salvation today. Thanks for watching.